Well, since I got nothing better to do, Lupin time once more. For today I'm reviewing its live action counterpart. No, not the 2014 film, that's for another day. I mean the other one from the 70s. From the research I could find, or lack thereof, this film is pretty much a footnote in the Lupin III franchise. The only reason very few people, especially in the West, have some knowledge of its existence is because it was released on DVD in the US by Discotek Media, the home of releasing stuff I actually want but can't obtain because I don't live in the US and import fees are bloody expensive. So yeah, this is technically my first live action movie review. I just wished my first was for a slightly better movie. Lupin III, Strange Psychokinetic Strategy, yes, that's the name of this bloody film, is a live-action adaptation of the Lupin III series at the time, released in Japanese theaters on the 3rd of August, 1974. It was produced by Toho. They made Godzilla. I think that's all you need to know. The movie consists of a few plots plopped right next to each other, with nothing to flow from one to the next apart from one singular thread, which I'll explain later. You got Lupin breaking Fujiko Mine out of prison, and suddenly Daisuke Jigen is introduced trying to find Lupin to resurrect the fabled Lupin Empire, which is from the manga. You know, that plot point that got dropped there if I'm not mistaken. Then suddenly Fujiko persuades Lupin to steal some jewelry. Then suddenly a criminal organization, the Macaron family, wants Jigen dead, but the assassins they hire ignore him and go for Lupin instead, for some reason. And when that fails because Lupin decided to turn himself in, they suddenly want their henchmen to steal a clay figure, and the only reason Lupin gets involved is because Fujiko got conveniently kidnapped by said organization because she was too nosy. Technically it tries to be an origin story but fails at that because it's not really interesting in addition to not feeling as natural as other origin stories, and the different vibes of this film when compared to other Lupin material at the time makes this all jarring. The story has no flow from one moment to the next, so it's hard to get into a movie like this. Some moments do feel integral to the Lupin formula, but they don't add up to anything other than, yeah, this is a Lupin III movie, just a heads up. Also, the last remnants of the film feel slapped on amongst other aspects. Think of it as your basic series of episodes of Lupin III, but because it's been forcefully shoved into 82 minutes, it feels like a lousy affair. In terms of being a Lupin III movie, it doesn't even bother to do the series any proper justice and does its own thing, which is technically fine given Kato's lax attitude towards adaptations of his work, but as he said himself, just make it good. Lupin in this movie has this carefree personality, but has half the wit and lacking the high natural energy the manga character had, though him being a perv hungry for any homegrown puss is near enough faithful. Jigen is here, the only memorable aspect to him is demanding Lupin to resurrect the Lupin Empire, which Lupin refuses every time. He does help Lupin in a couple of heists, but their relationship is more of a disgruntled and silly old man talking to a child rather than a straight man lackey, Hellbanana's boss but also friends as well. It makes him a heavily underwhelming character as a result. Fujiko surprisingly is the only character to be faithful to the source material. She's hot, she has an expensive taste, she gets captured and steals whatever Lupin was gonna take. Though in the case of this movie, Lupin stole jewelry for her anyway, so I guess he didn't expect much other than that puss. Zenigata is way too over the top here. He acts like a buffoon in the most annoying way possible, making faces and looking like a complete twat. I just don't like this interpretation of Zenigata. He works more in cartoons than in a live action setting. This is a slight issue for the entire movie, but I'll get to that in a bit. The Inspector also has 2 film exclusive lackeys, but as the movie also points out, no one cares about them, and just because you mention it doesn't mean it's funny. You're probably wondering why I didn't mention Goemon in the Lupin gang. That's because he's not even in this movie. Yep, they cut him out and there isn't a concrete reason why. Though if this is considered an origin story, then that makes sense, but it still feels like something's missing. The one element that it tries to do is be a live action cartoon in the most literal manner. From Lupin leaving his body to kiss a woman he doesn't know because he's fucking Lupin, to Fujiko dropping a tree branch on Lupin's head and falling in a comical fashion. Lupin and another female sex scene being described using the male and female sex symbols, which not only references how Monkey Punch drew genitals, but also references Japanese law as a joke. This moment was admittedly funny, by the way. There's a scene where Zenigata gets crushed by an open door leaving him literally flat, etc. Now, does it work? well, I kinda wished it did, and whilst there were a few goofy moments that did get a giggle out of me, the rest felt forced and a bit tiresome. To be a 70s comedy is to be camp, and in the case of this movie, it's certainly campy. Lupin himself jumping all around the place and fighting enemies 1960s Batman style, more than one Benny Hill style chase, there's a fourth wall breaking moment when Lupin faces one of the assassins. In short, it's high energy all around, and at least it does slow down from time to time, so it isn't frustrating to watch, but for me, it got tiresome halfway through the film, and I think it's because its cartoony elements feel desperate. It's forcefully trying to make you laugh with its artificial zaniness. Now keep in mind, I wasn't expecting high art with this film, but sometimes just because something worked in cartoons doesn't mean it's going to work in a live action medium. It works in animation because it has the ability to express itself further due to its own limitations. It can create its own world and its own physics and logic, and rarely, if ever, feels jarring. Doing this shtick in a live action medium can work. Slapstick comedy, for example, is great, but it has to work around its own limitations, a balance of wacky hijinks and being grounded in reality enough to be entertaining. And in the case of this film, it's too wacky and oftentimes trying to transition the cartoon silliness in a budget that they sadly don't have. When the Lupin anime is more grounded in its own world than this one flick, you know you've gone overboard. Which is where the movie has a failed excuse for its cartoon logic. Psychokinesis. What is it? No idea. In fact, the movie mentions it a few times, but it's never explained what it actually is. Lupin seemingly has psychokinetic powers, which could explain all the silly shit he can pull off, albeit selectively, as it occasionally fails him for a comedic effect. Zenigata claims he too has psychokinetic powers as well. Later on in the movie, there's a clay figure that has traces of psychokinetic energy, but that goes nowhere other than some characters needing to retrieve it. We don't get an explanation of what it is, where it originated and how Lupin inherited it. The movie just expects you to accept it, and what's worse is that it's in the title of the movie. Strange psychokinetic strategy. Yeah, the movie can be strange. Psychokinesis is mentioned in the movie, but there's no strategy. This psychokinetic energy is not even the main focus of the movie. In fact, nothing is, because it can't stick to one main plot. Also, the Macaron family get mentioned around 12 minutes into the film and don't get mentioned again until the 49-minute mark. And their plans involve being the big criminal organization and getting a superstitious rich person to buy a clay figure, assuming they might gain powers from it. But we don't know how it works or if you can get powers from it. It's as if the movie doesn't care about anything it does and relies on really dumb camp to save it, which, I'm sorry, it doesn't. Of course this film was going to be forgotten. Though there are some positives I have for the movie. Lupin and Fujiko's relationship is faithful, as is Lupin's near rapey sex drive, though it never goes too far when compared to the manga original, of course. Any sex scenes with other women are consensual. We also get what I believe are two references to Kazuhiko Kato's pen name, Monkey Punch, with the priest and a gas trap in an exhibition. This moment with Jigen and his plethora of guns is just charmingly stupid. Come on, I thought Jigen was Japanese, not an American. This is ridiculous. There's a scene where the commissioner is reading French text on a piece of paper and the subtitles refer to what he's seeing as pseudo-French. I thought the subtitles were being lazy, but it is supposed to be French gibberish in the movie. I don't know if that's a positive, I thought I'd let you know that fun fact. Those sex jokes, there's some good ones, but most are mediocre, but I already explained the best one. Even a couple of gay jokes. And given the chunk of the current fanbase residing on Tumblr for some reason, they'll probably get a kick out of it. And then out of nowhere, girl group The Poppies playing leather-clad assassins, singing their song out of nowhere, threatening Lupin. The song is used in the original trailer for a reason. I surprisingly love this track. It's catchy, it's upbeat, it's just a fun song to hum to. Though in the movie, they sing 40 seconds of it, fight Lupin, but he wins through the sheer power of sexual harassment and bringing the fear of the mighty Lupin dick. In fact, the music is okay, it has a bit of blues and jazz in some tracks. It fits the tone of the movie well, as does Lupin's theme, for what it's worth. I don't know, but his theme sounds like the intro of a 60s British sitcom. I get an On the Buses vibe from it. Yeah, I know what it is, I may not be old, but I did watch reruns back when television wasn't complete shit. Its laid back and jovial tone not only fits the movie, but Lupin too, at least in this film. Try playing this with other Lupin material or modern anime in general, it can date an anime badly tenfold. I'll give the movie this, it did look like the cast had a fun time goofing off in this film and it shows. I won't take that away from it. Yuki Meguro plays the titular character. He looks nothing like the cartoon thief, doesn't even wear the same clothes as the character, and the only Lupin to wear a white jacket, has very few traits of the character in general, but for this movie, he's harmless. We got Kuni Tanaka as Jigen, Aiko Isaki as Fujiko, Shiro Ito as Zenigata, Akira Uzumi, Toro Uhira, and Yosuke Naka playing the baddies go on to play part roles in future Lupin III anime. Hey, did you know Eiichiro Oda of One Piece fame took Kuni Tanaka's likeness to create Kizaru? The more you know, I guess. Lupin III's strange psychokinetic strategy is a product of its time in every conceivable way, from its comedy that can either be legitimately funny, oftentimes quirky and harmless, but oftentimes irritating, to the over-the-top aspects of action and characters being needlessly exaggerated, to the amount of liberties taken, which wasn't much, but there are familiar aspects from the original manga and more or less the second half of the Lupin III Part 1 anime. Though it's more or less the basics, but I'll take it over being a Lupin III movie in name only, though many a times does that cross the line. However, whilst the cartoon logic is a hit and mostly miss, I will give credit for the attempt at this stuff as dated as some effects are, since you can tell this was a low budget affair, a low cardboard movie set in the exhibition scene. The actors admittedly do a good job here for what they were given, but Ito's performance as Zenigata is still annoying. This is one of those movies where you watch it as a curiosity and never watch it again, though there will be those who will appreciate it more than others, and that's absolutely fine. For me, there's nothing to come back to. If you do want to watch it, it's been released on DVD in Japan, in the US as I stated before, and of course, Italy. When it comes to Lupin III, they don't mess around. And for those wondering about its box office sales, well, there's no info on that front. Considering how obscure the movie is, I doubt it did all that well, I'm just assuming. And that's about it. You know, it was only last year that I even heard of this one, and I've been curious about this movie since. And whilst this movie isn't for me, someone might enjoy what it has to offer, but like everyone else, I too will treat it as a footnote in the Lupin III series. When I come back to said series, I'll be covering the mystery of Mamo, but that's for another day. Please like, comment, subscribe, click the bell to get notifications in the next video, and share this one to all the fans of Lupin III.